All right, let's try this again. I somehow ran out of space on my memory card. I've deleted so much stuff in there, so I'm doing this part on my phone. So I think I'm just going to start the whole intro over because I have no idea what's saved on my phone. So thank you so much for joining me today. I am very excited to share with you all my journey on purchasing my first house. Well, I didn't purchase the house by myself, but I'm just sharing this information with you. I've had quite a few people ask me questions about the whole home buying process. I was like, you know what? Let me create this video. That way it's a visual reference I can just refer people to and to share with all of you here on YouTube who are part of my little circle. So, I'm just going to share, I think about 10 or 11 pointers, just kind of playing it by ear, just basing off of the notes that I have here. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm looking at. So one, you want to create a timeline as far as when you're actually looking to actually close on your home. The timeline will definitely vary based upon if you're purchasing a new build or a resale. A resale can definitely happen a lot quicker than a new build. It's just more so about, getting the inspection done and coming up with the funds to close and whenever the sellers are ready to actually move out of the house. So, but if you're purchasing a new build like what I did, that process can take a little bit longer. There are a lot of factors that can play into that, such as permitting through the city, because it doesn't really actually take that long. Well, I shouldn't say take that long, but the house probably really came together pretty quickly, probably within 5 weeks or so. However, the entire process took us about 6 months. Weather played a factor. The pandemic that's going on definitely played a factor because there was a limited amount of people that could be in the house doing a trade at a time. So these are some things that you just want to consider. Are you doing a new build, not new build? Are you doing it during the pandemic or a regular time? These things are going to alter the timeline. But based upon the timeline that you create, so you want to start saving money for your down payment and for additional things like if you're going to hire movers, moving truck, if you need to put things into a local storage facility to tie you over. These are some things that you definitely want to work into your budget. So talking about budget, let's talk about purchase price. When purchasing a home, you don't want to just consider the amount that you're going to be paying for your monthly mortgage. You also want to consider how much do you want to spend on your house, right? How much do you want to spend? Think about it. This is one of your largest purchases, so you want to make sure that your purchase price is a price that you're comfortable with. In addition to also considering your DTI, your debt to income ratio, in comparison to other items that you may have. I know some people may feel like you should only purchase a home if you don't have any debt, but for some people that could take a little bit longer. For me, I personally still have debt, but I have significantly reduced the amount of installment debt and revolving debt that I have prior to closing on the house. So how are you actually going to pay for the house, right? There are different ways that you can purchase your home. You can come out outright and pay for the home in full cash. For me, I wasn't quite so fortunate financially to be able to purchase the home outright in full cash, but I was able to secure financing. When thinking about securing financing, you want to consider, do you want to do an FHA loan, right? Where you put down a smaller down payment amount, which can help making purchasing your home a little bit more easier and more affordable. Or you can consider conventional loan, which often requires up to 20% of a down payment. There were a few programs that were able to do a down payment between 5 and 10%. However, because of this pandemic that's going on, some of the lenders, banking, they've actually changed some of their loan qualifications. So those programs were no longer available when we were actually looking to, go through the whole securing the loan processing. So we had to go with FHA, but that's totally fine. I think I'll probably talk a little bit more about FHA and conventional in a different video. Now, I am not a loan officer. I am not a mortgage broker. I am not a realtor, but I am a person who went through this process. And actually, you know what? Let's talk about another point. So going through this process as a first-time home buyer, right? It can be a little confusing. I mean, it definitely was for me, but some things that you can do to make sure you can prepare yourself is one, you can read some books. I actually went to my local library, right, and I walked through the section on, real estate and buying a home. I even looked at the catalog online. So I actually borrowed some books about the home buying process. That was very helpful. And it was really more so about balancing the time that I spent watching YouTube videos or Netflix. I just transitioned that time over into reading the books. This was very helpful for me to be able to understand the different terminology that's used throughout the whole home buying process. So buying books, looking at blogs, videos, asking family and friends who've recently purchased a home. They'll definitely be able to give you some very insightful information, as well as your realtor. So before actually even applying for the home, you want to know what is your actual mortgage score, right? Now, I know a lot of us, have our own banks or credit cards that offer free credit scores, which is a great educational resource. However, those scores, they are not what your mortgage broker are going to be looking at, okay? Those scores, they are not what your mortgage broker will be looking at. So when qualifying for a house, the scores that you actually want to consider are your FICO score 2, 5, 2, 3, oh my goodness. I totally forgot. I'm going to post it in here, but there's 3 different mortgage scores that you want to consider. You know what? I would grab my phone and look at it from my FICO, but I'm actually using my phone to record this video, but look for it here. So the scores that you often see from these places are either, they're oftentimes the FICO 8 score, which is a little bit different than the scores used for qualifying for a house. In addition to that, so when approved for a particular rate for a loan, right, even though you have 3 different scores, you may be thinking, okay, so which score are they going to use? Actually going to take the middle score, or also termed as the mid score. So let's say your mortgage score, you have one score that's a 600, one score that's a 618, and another score that's a 635. So between those 3 scores, they're not going to look at the lowest, and they're not going to look at the highest. They're going to take the one in the middle. So in the example I just provided, the mid score for that is a 618. So depending upon your mortgage broker's requirements, right, the score requirements may be a 580, as low as a 580 if you're doing a FICO. Oftentimes they desire a 620. Now I will say, going through this process with pandemic going on, the score requirements changed on us 3 different times, which was a little bit frustrating. I'm going to talk about that in a different video about what to do in the event that your loan is declining. You need to scramble and figure out what to do, because we actually went through that process. And what was that? About 5 to 6 weeks away from closing, they changed that. So definitely look out for that in another video. So when you're considering your score, you may want to consider, somebody sending me a text message, my brother. Still stripes over checks. Funny. So with your FICO score, so for me, what we decided to do, we decided to actually sign up for the My FICO family plan. So with the family plan, it's about $50 a month, right? You can have 2 adults on that plan. I think up to 8 or 10 kids, but we don't have any kids. So the reason why we decided to do that is because the family plan, you get a 3B score, right? So you get a score from all 3 bureaus, and it comes quarterly. So we decided the process in January, right? We knew we were closing in June, so we figured having that quarterly update for those 3 bureaus would be perfect for us. Now, what I ended up doing, I didn't end up paying for additional scores throughout the process, just because of the terms of the lending was changing. So I wanted to make sure that I knew what my score was before having the lender rerun my score. That's very important, because you don't want to have an unnecessary ding on a hard inquiry on your credit report, right? If you don't need to. So if you know that there's a little bit more work that you need to do on your score, don't have the lender pull your score just yet. Go ahead and spend a couple $100 if you're going to be going through the loan buying process, say in 6 months. If you want to pay, if you're an individual person buying a home, I think the individual plan where you get the 3B report and the score every month. I think that's like $40 a month. So just take that as a small investment for yourself, so that way the scores that you're getting, right, when you're requesting it, it's going to be a soft inquiry. And if you use the My FICO and you're looking at your mortgage score, that is the same exact score that the lenders will be using for as a hard pull, whereas if you do it, it's a soft pull. So you definitely want to make sure that you're that you know exactly what the lender is going to be looking at before you actually have them do a hard pull on your credit score. So choose an account that you want to have all of your funds for closing come from. I think it just makes the whole process a lot easier. For me, I chose one account, right? So that was the account where we had the EMD deposit in there, which is the earnest money deposit, EMD, which is something that if you're buying a new build, is more than likely you're going to have an EMD deposit. So choose that one account and make sure it's an account where you don't have a lot of activity going in and out of, because girl or young man, they will ask question after question after question about certain transactions, okay? And to minimize the stress on yourself, just choose an account where you hardly ever use a card. If you don't have an account like that, go ahead and open up a separate one. If you know you're going to be buying a home, even if it's a year down the line, go ahead and open up a separate account and just start fresh. Make sure that account has primarily deposits from your payroll going in. You don't want to have a lot of miscellaneous cash deposits in the account. You may want to just, have, if you're once you choose your extra broker, ask the question, like what amount of money is okay to have in the account without it being questioned. For me, it was $2,000. So I was like, okay, so if I had any extra cash that I would deposit into the account, or if I did a Zelle payment for myself from a different account, I just made sure it was under $2,000. And really, I think the highest amount was like $900, because I didn't want like any unnecessary questions. So choose an account, make sure you have minimal transactions. Make sure it's an account that you don't have any NSF transactions, because if you did have an NSF, even if it was like 6 months ago, they're going to ask about it. So just make it easy on yourself. Make sure it's a clean account, okay? You don't have a lot of debits going out, mostly payroll credits. What's the other one? Oh yeah, change direct deposit. So if you know you're buying a house, right, and if your employer allows you to split your money up in more than one account, so you want to make sure you already have your budget done for your household done first. So once you've done that, you have, the money where you're paying all your bills, have that amount money going in there, then whatever you have left over, put that into a separate account, another savings account that you're using to build up your down payment and or closing costs from that. That makes it a lot easier, because once your lender is looking at your payroll statements, they're going to be able to see that amount. If you have, for me, like I had $900 going to this particular account every 2 weeks, and it just made it a lot easier. I was able to quickly build up my down payment funds. I even had funds left over from that. Okay, so if you're planning on having a family or friends gift you money, right? Yes, it's something that is possible, but just take into an account that the lender is going to ask for a gift letter, and likely they want to see that person's bank statements. For me, once I learned that, I knew that wasn't an option that I wanted to do. So if you are planning on having a family or friend gift you funds, just make sure you have that conversation to let them know that while you're grateful for them giving you that gift, just make sure that they're aware that the lender is going to be asking for their personal bank statements. So you want to have that conversation with your lender to see exactly what will they need from that person, and how would they like to receive the funds. So if someone's planning on giving you any money, just ask them to hold on to those funds until you get clarification from your lender, and that way you can work with the lender and the person gifting you those funds. I see when they should transfer the money or mail a check, or however they're planning to gift you that money, because you don't want to have to figure out a way to come up with how you received a deposit of, you know, X amount of thousands of dollars and you don't really have an explanation for it. So make sure you're being open with your lender when it comes with how you're planning on funding your house. Oh, first time home buyers class. Okay, so this was actually very insightful for me. So I actually signed up for a home buyers class. Now, granted, I did not qualify for any of the funds. So for like down payment assistance, there are certain income requirements that are put into place for people who can get those funds. In addition to that, some of it also limits the amount of house that you can buy depending on the county. But even if you don't necessarily qualify to receive down payment assistance, going to a home buyers class is still very beneficial. I learned a lot about just the whole process just by going into a class. So we registered for a class. Now this was free, but if you wanted the certificate to say that you went to the home buyers class, especially if you're, you know, needed proof that you went to a class, if you're getting down payment assistance, you want to make sure that you're finding a HUD approved program, okay? And there are free ones out there. If someone tries to encourage you to go to a home buyers class, it's a paid one, you might want to double check the fine print, because in my case, the lender was suggesting for me to go to a HBC, right? I thought it meant home buyers class because that's the acronym that I see most often online with buying a house. However, the HBC for this particular lender actually meant home buyers club, okay? And this was going to cost thousands of dollars, and they're pretty much giving you a lot of the same information that I learned with the home buyers class. And this was also supposed to like reduce the interest rate by like 0.5 percentage point. But I'm like, I'm not about to pay like, you know, $4,000 for that. Find yourself a free HUD approved program, all right? Even if you don't qualify for down payment assistance, DPA, you'll still find valuable information. You can also network. Oftentimes there will be a mortgage broker there. They'll have a realtor there. They'll have someone that does inspections or surveyors. So you'll learn a lot of information, and you can also get those business cards for those people in the event you decide to utilize one of them for the services that they offer. Choosing a realtor. Okay, so choosing a realtor is actually also very important. You want someone who is knowledgeable, who's passionate about what they do, and someone who's going to be very open with you. Now, I only interviewed one realtor, but I did have contact information for 3 of them. But that first interview, that was all I needed. So I came prepared. You want to make sure that you have your questions written down. In another video, I will share with you the questions that I asked. But you want to make sure that, you know, you probably leave at least about an hour. 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. The alarm system was going off, so, but everything's good there. Realtor, yes. So choosing a realtor, this is someone who's actually going to be there to help hold your hand along the way. So make sure you choose someone that you're comfortable with. Make sure this person is going to be able to reach back out with you, follow up with you if you have any questions. My realtor, she was available 24/7. She was awesome. She was totally amazing. She's passionate, you know, about what she does. She sold a lot of homes. She was very open, gave us full disclosure about what to expect. She came on our home inspection and on the follow-up home inspection. She definitely went to bat for us when something went wrong right before closing. She was totally awesome. She was amazing. You know, we had to make several phone calls to her, even if it was like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. She was open to that. She sent us responses via text message. She even created a group message between us, her, and then the salesperson for the home. She definitely gave us tips and things to keep in mind. When we went through the home inspection walkthrough process, she found more things than what we found because we didn't really know what to look for, but she was awesome, amazing. So make sure you actually ask very important questions when you're choosing your realtor. Make sure you feel comfortable with the realtor, and guess what? If that realtor is not working out, you don't have to stay with that realtor during the whole process, because remember, they don't get paid until you close on your home. So if something is going wrong before leading up to that process, you can fire your realtor and find a new one. Okay, don't feel like you have to stay with the same one, because this is the person that's helping you with your largest purchase. So be comfortable with it. And the 10th thing I want to say is just breathe and be patient. Your patience will be tested. My patience was definitely tested. There were some things that went wrong right even before closing, even the day of closing. But just be patient. Make sure that you have, again, like I was stating earlier, a strong realtor who's going to be there to go to bat for you, because if something goes wrong, that's what they're getting paid for, right? They're getting paid a commission, so that way they can help you during this process. So let them carry that weight for you, and all you need to focus on is making sure that you have all your documents in order. Oh, another thing I forgot to state. I'll talk about it now before I do the other portion to this video. But whenever your lender is asking for documents, do your very best to get those documents to the lender typically within 24 hours, right? If they ask you to do something at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, make sure you do that before you go to bed. It's very important that you do that. In addition to that, create a file, whether if it's a Google file or however you keep track of your stuff. Make sure you keep track of everything. If you have to star and flag it as something important, but whatever they're sending you, make sure you review it thoroughly, right? Sign it, date it, and send it back. Even send them follow-up emails, make sure that they receive the document, because a lot of times the documents are time sensitive, and sometimes they don't tell you that it's time sensitive. So yeah, so that's just this first part of this series about things to think about before buying your house. Stay tuned for additional videos as I talk a little bit more about, if you're buying a new build, things to look out for. I'll talk about the whole financing aspects, talking about what happens when your funding falls through. Yes, that happened to me. And questions to ask your realtor, and questions to ask your broker, and finally what to ask the builder if you have a new build, and things about warranties, and if you live in a state that has homestead exemption. All right, that wraps this first part up to the series about buying your first house for a first-time home buyer. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for additional videos during this series as I talk a little bit more about questions to ask your realtor, choosing a realtor, questions to ask your lender, what to do in case your funding falls through, different loan types, working with your builder if you're in a new build, and how to save and or continue to monitor your credit as you're going through this process. So again, thank you so much for watching. If you found this video beneficial, you know what to do. And if you know someone who's actually going through a home buying process, definitely share this video, because I'm going to be doing more videos throughout the month of September. So I plan to have all of the home buyer series uploaded before the end of the month. So look for a video once a week. Thanks so much for watching. Good night.